Mr. Hardcastle, you're very particular. Is there not another person in the whole country but ourselves that does not take a trip to town now and then to rub off the rust a little? There's the two Miss Hoggs and our neighbor Mrs. Grigsby go to take a month's polishing every winter.
Aye, and bring back vanity and affectation to last them the whole year. I wonder why London cannot keep its own fools at home. In my time, the followers of our town kept slowly among us, but now they travel faster than a stagecoach. Its fopperies come down not only as inside passengers, but in the very basket.
Aye, your times were fine times indeed. You've been telling us of them for many a long year. Here we live in an old rumbling mansion that looks for all the world like an inn, but that we never see company. Our best visitors are old Mrs. Oddfish, the curate's wife, and little Cripplegate, the lame dancing master. And all our entertainments are old stories of Prince Eugene and the Duke of Marlborough. I hate such old-fashioned trumpery.
And I love it. I love everything that's old. Old books, old wine, old times, old friends, old manners. And I believe, Dorothy, you know, I've been pretty fond of an old wife.
Oh, Lord, Mr. Hardcastle, you're forever at your Dorothy's and your old wives. You may be a Darby, but I'll be no Joan, I promise you. I'm not as old as you'd make me by more than one good year. Add 20 to 20 and make money of that.
Let me see. 20 added to 20 makes just 50 and 7.
Oh, it's false, Mr. Hardcastle. I was but 20 when I was brought to bed of Tony, that I had by Mr. Lumpkin, my first husband, and he's not come to years of discretion yet.
Nor ever will I to answer for him. Aye, you have taught him finely.
No matter, Tony Lumpkin has good fortune. My son is not to live by his learning. I don't think a boy wants much learning to spend 1,500 a year.
Learning, quotha, mere composition of tricks and mischief.
Humor, my dear, nothing but humor. Come, Mr. Hardcastle, you must allow the boy a little humor.
I'd sooner allow him a horse pawn. If burning the footman's shoes, frightening the maids, and roaring the kittens be humor, he has it. It was but yesterday he fastened the back of my wig to my chair, and when I went to make a bow, I popped my bald head in Miss Frizzle's face.
Oh, and I to blame? The poor boy was always too sickly to do any good. A school would be his death. When he comes to be a little stronger, who knows what a year or two's Latin may do for him?
Latin for him, cat and fiddle. The stable and the alehouse are the only schools he'll ever go to.
Well, we mustn't snub the poor boy now, for I believe we shan't have him long among us. Anyone who looks in his face may see he's consumptive.
Aye, if growing too fat be one of the symptoms.
He coughs sometimes.
Yes, when his liquor goes the wrong way.
I'm actually afraid of his lungs.
And truly so am I, for he sometimes whoops like a speaking trumpet. Oh, there he goes, a consumptive figure, truly.
Where are you going, my charmer? Won't you give Papa and I a little of your company, lovey?
Oh, Mother, I cannot stay. I'm in haste.
You shan't venture out this raw evening, my dear. You look most shockingly.
I'm in haste, Mother. I cannot stay. The 3 pigeons expect me down every moment. There's some fun going forward.
Aye, the alehouse, the old place. I thought so.
A low, paltry set of fellows.
Not so low either. There's Dick Muggins, the excise man. Jack Slang, the horse doctor. Aminadab, who grinds the music box. And Tom Twist, who spins the pewter platter.
Oh, pray, my dear, disappoint them for one night at least.
Well, as for disappointing them, I should not so much mind. But I cannot abide to disappoint myself.
You shan't go.
I will, I tell you.
I say you shan't.
We'll see which is strongest, you or I.
Oh, put me down, you monster. Put me down the stage.
Aye, there goes a pair that only spoil each other. But is not the whole age and combination to drive sense and discretion out of doors? There's my pretty darling Kate. The fashions of the times have almost infected her, too. By living a year or two in town, she is almost as fond of French gauze and frippery as the best of them. Blessings on my pretty innocence. Trust out as usual, my Kate. Goodness, what a quantity of superfluous silk hast thou got about thee, girl. I could never teach the fools of this age that the indigent world could be clothed out of the trimmings of the vein.
You know our agreement, sir. You allow me the mornings to dress as I like and receive company, and in the evenings I put on my housewife's dress to please you.
Well, remember the terms of our agreement. And by the by, I believe I shall have occasion to test your obedience this very evening.
I protest, sir. I don't understand your meaning.
Then, to be plain with you, Kate, I expect the young gentleman whom I have chosen to be your husband in from town this very day. I have his father's letter, in which he informs me he has set out, and that he will follow shortly after.
Oh, bless me! Oh, I wish I'd known something of this before. How shall I behave? Oh, our meeting will be so formal and so like a thing of business that there will be no room for friendship or esteem.
Depend on it, child. I shall never control your choice. But Mr. Marlowe, whom I've pitched upon, is the son of my old friend Sir Charles Marlowe, whom you have heard me talk so often. He has been bred a scholar and is designed in the employment of his country. I am told he is of excellent understanding.
Is he?
Very generous.
Oh, I believe I shall like him.
Young and brave.
Oh, I'm sure I shall like him.
And very handsome.
Oh, Papa, say no more. I shall take him.
And to crown all, Kate, he's one of the most modest and reserved fellows in all of the world.
Oh, you have frozen me to death. Modest. That word has undone all the rest of his accomplishments. A modest lover, it is always said, makes a suspicious husband.
On the contrary, modesty seldom resides in a breast that is not enriched with nobler virtues. It was the very feature in his character that first struck me.
Well, he'll have to have more than striking features to catch me, I can assure you. But if he be so young and so brave and so everything as you say, I believe I'll have him still.
Aye, Kate, but there is still an obstacle. It is more of an even wager he may not have you.
Why will you mortify one so? Well, if he breaks my heart, instead of breaking my glass for its flattery, I'll only set my cap some newer fashion and set out looking for some less difficult admirer.
Bravely resolved. In the meantime, I'll go prepare the servants for his reception. As we seldom see company, they need as much training as a company of recruits the first day's muster.
Lord, this news of Papa's puts me all in a flutter. Young and handsome, I like all that. And then brave and generous, but then modest. Ugh. Yes, but couldn't I teach him to be proud of a wife and cure him of his timidity? Yes, and couldn't I... Oh, but I vow I'm disposing of the husband before I've even secured the lover. Oh, I'm glad you're come, Neville, my dear. Tell me, Constance, how do I look this evening? Is there something whimsical about me? Am I in face today?
Perfectly, my dear. Yet, now I look again. Bless me! Sure no accident has happened among the canary birds or the goldfishes. Has your brother or the cat been meddling? Or the last novel been too moody?
No, none of all this. I've been threatened. I can scarce get it out. I've been threatened with a lover.
And his name?
Is Marlowe.
Indeed!
The son of Sir Charles Marlowe.
As I live, the most intimate friend of Mr. Hastings, my admirer. They're never asunder. I believe you must have seen him when we lived in town.
Never.
He's a very singular character, I assure you. Among women of reputation and virtue, he's the modestest man alive. But his acquaintance gives him a very different character around creatures of another stamp. You understand me?
A very odd character, to be sure. How will I ever manage him? How shall I act? Oh, think nothing more of it, but trust to occurrences for success. Oh, but how goes on your own affair, my dear? Has my mother been courting you for Tony, as usual?
I've just come from one of our agreeable tete-a-tetes. She's been saying 100 tender things and making out a pretty monster as the very pink of affection.
And her partiality is such that she actually thinks him so. But a fortune like yours is no small temptation. And as she has sole management of it, I'm not surprised she doesn't want to let it go out of the family.
A fortune like mine, which chiefly consists of jewels, is no such mighty temptation. But if my dear Hastings be but constant, I make no doubt to be too hard for her at last. In the meantime, I let her believe that I am in love with her son, and she never once dreams my affections are fixed upon another.
And my dear brother holds out stoutly. I could almost love him for hating you so.
It's a good-natured creature at bottom, and I'm sure would rather see me married to anyone but himself. But my aunt's bell rings for our afternoon's walk around the improvements. Hello! Courage is necessary, as our affairs are critical.
Were it were bedtime and all were well.
keep on going.
Silence for a song. The squire's going to knock himself down for a song.
And I'll sing ye, gentlemen, a song I made upon this alehouse. The Three Pigeons. Let schoolmasters puzzle their brains with grammar and nonsense in learning. Good liquor I stoutly maintain. Give genius a better discerning. Let them brag of their heathenish gods. Their nethies, their stixes and stidgeons. Their quints and their twice and their quads. They're all but a parcel of pigeons. When a Methodist preacher comes down, preaching that drinking is sin, away to the rascals a crown. They always preach better with a skin full. Come down with your tents for a slice of their scurvy religion. I'll leave it to all men of sense, but you, my good friends, are the pigeons. So come, put the jorum about, and let us be merry and clever. Our hearts and our liquors are stout. It's the Three Jolly Pigeons forever. Let some cry up woodcock or hare. Your bustards, your ducks, and your widgeons. Of all the birds in the air, here's a health to the Three Jolly Pigeons.
The squire's got some spunk in him.
I'd love to hear him sing because he never gives us nothing that's low.
Oh, damn! Anything that's low, I cannot bear it. The genteel thing is the genteel thing at any time. If so be that a gentleman be's in a concatenation accordingly.
I like the maxim of it, Master Muggins. What though? Am I obligated to dance a bear? A man may be a gentleman for all that. May this be my poison, if my bear dances to the very genteelest of tunes? Water potted, or the minuet of tragedy?
What's a pity it is the squire's not come to his own. And it would be good for publicans 10 miles round here. Yes, it would. God, and so it would, Master Slang. I didn't show what it was to keep a choice of company. He takes after his own father for that. Old Squire Lumpkin is the finest gentleman I ever seen in my eyes.
Yes, he does.
For winding the straight horn or beating the thicket for a hare or a wench, he never had his fellow. It was a saying in the place that he kept the best dogs, horses, and girls. God, when I'm of age, I'll be no bastard, I promise you. I've been thinking of Bet Bouncer and the Miller's Grey Mare to begin with. Come, my boys, drink about and be merry, for you pay no reckoning. Well, Stingo, what's the matter?
There be two gentlemen at the post chase at the door. They've lost their way upon the forest, asking something at Master Hardcastle.
Sure as can be, one of them must be the gentleman come down to court my sister. Do they seem to be Londoners?
I believe they may. They look woundedly like Frenchmen.
Then desire them to step this way, and I shall set them straight in a twinkling. Gentlemen, as they mayn't be good enough company for you, step up for a moment, and I'll be with you in the squeezing of a lemon. Father-in-law's been calling me hound and whelp this half year. If I was so pleased I could be revenged upon the old Grumbletonian. But then I'm afraid. I'm afraid of what? I shall soon be worth 1,500 a year. Let him scare me out of that if he can.
Tedious and uncomfortable day we have had. We were told it was but 40 miles across the country, and here we have gone above 80.
Yes, and with that unaccountable reserve of yours that would not let us inquire more along the way.
I own Hastings. I am unwilling to lay myself in an obligation to everyone we meet, and often stand a chance of an unmannerly answer.
Yes, well, at present, we are not likely to receive any answer.
Excuse me, gentlemen. I am told you are inquiring of one Mr. Hardcastle in these parts. Do you gentlemen even know what part of the country you are in?
No, sir, but should thank you for any information.
Nor the way that you came?
No, sir, but if you could inform us.
Why, gentlemen, if you know neither the road that you came, nor where you are, nor the road you are going, the first thing I have to tell you is that you have lost your way.
We wanted no ghost to tell us that.
Pray, gentlemen, may I be so bold as to ask from whence you came?
That is not necessary in towards directing us where we are to go.
No offense, gentlemen, but question for question is all fair, you know. Gentlemen, is not the same Hardcastle a cross-grained, old-fashioned, whimsical fellow with an ugly face, a daughter, and a pretty son?
We have not seen the gentleman, but he does have a family you speak of.
The daughter a tall, traipsing, trolloping, talkative maypole. The son a pretty, well-bred, agreeable youth that everybody is fond of.
Our information differs in this. The daughter is said to be well-bred and beautiful, and the son, an awkward booby, reared up and spoiled at his mother's apron sleeves.
Then, gentlemen, all I have to tell you is that you shan't reach Mr. Hardcastle's house this night, I believe.
Unfortunate.
It's a damn long, dark, dirty, boggy, dangerous way. Stingo, tell the gentleman the way to Mr. Hardcastle's. Mr. Hardcastle's of Quagmire Marsh, you understand me?
Master Hardcastles, lackadaisical masters, you come a deadly deal wrong. When you came to the bottom of the hill, you should have crossed down Squash Lane.
Crossed down Squash Lane.
And then kept straight forward till you came to four roads.
Come to where four roads meet.
Aye, but you must be sure to take only one of them.
Oh, sir, you're facetious.
Then, keeping to the right, you were to go sideways until you come to Crack Skull Common. There, you must look sharp for the track of the wheel and go forward until you find out Farmer Moraine's barn. Coming to the farmer's barn, you are to go to the left, and then to the right, and then to the left about again until you find out the old mill.
Sounds, man, we could have soon found the longitude.
What's to be done, Arlo?
This house promises but a poor reception, although perhaps the landlord can accommodate us.
Alack, masters, we've got but one bed in the whole house.
And to my knowledge, that is taken up by 3 lodgers already.
Of course.
I have hit it, Stingo. Don't you think the landlady could accommodate them by the fireside with 3 chairs and a bolster?
I hate sleeping by the fireside.
And I detest your 3 chairs and a bolster.
You do you? Well then, let me think. What if you went on about a mile further to the old Buck's Head? The old Buck's Head on the hill, one of the best inns in the whole country.
Oh ho! So we haven't escaped this adventure for this night, however.
Sure you better be sending it to your father's as an inn, be you?
Mom, you fool, you. Let them find that out. You have only to keep on straight forward until you come to a large house by the roadside. You will see a large pair of horns above the door, and that's your sign. Drive up the yard and call stoutly about you.
Oh, sir, we are obliged to you. The servants can't miss the way.
No, but I tell you, the landlord is rich and is going to leave off business and wants to be thought of a gentleman saving your presence. He'll be for giving you his company, and, ecod, if you mind him, he'll convince you that his mother was an alderman and his aunt a justice of the peace.
A troublesome old blade, but he keeps as good as wines and beds in the whole country.
Well, if he supplies it with these, we shall need no further connections. I'm to turn to the right, did you say?
No, straight forward. But I'll just step myself and show you a piece of the way.
Bless your heart for the sweet, pleasant, mischievous son.
This time.
perfect in the table exercise I have been teaching you this past 3 days. You all know your post in your places and can show that you have been used to good company without ever stirring from home.
Aye, aye.
When company comes, you're not to pop out and stare and then run back in again like frightened rabbits in a warren.
How no?
But you, Diggory, whom I have taken from the barn, are to make a show at the table. And you, Roger, whom I have advanced from the plow, are to place yourself behind my chair. But you're not to stand so, Roger, with your hands in your pockets. Take your hands from your pockets, Roger. And from your head, you blockhead, you. See how Diggory carries his hands. They're a little too stiff, indeed, but that's no great matter.
Aye, mind how I hold them. I learned to hold my hands this way once upon drill for the militia. And so
you are too talkative, Diggory. Now, if I happen to say a good thing or tell a good story at the table, you're not to burst out all laughing like you have been made part of the company.
And God, your worship, must I tell the story of the whole goose in the gunroom? I can't help laughing at that story. I've been this is 20 years.
Yes, Diggory, the story is a good one. You may laugh at that. But still remember to be attentive. Now, suppose one of the company should call for a glass of wine. A glass of wine, sir, if you please. Why don't you move?
We can't, your worship. I never have courage till I see the eatables and drinkables above the table, and I'm as bold as a lion.
What? Will nobody move?
But I'm not to leave this place.
Well, I'm sure it's no place of mine. Not mine for certain.
Ones, and I sure it can't be mine.
You numbskulls! And while like your betters you're quarreling for places, the guests must be starved. Oh, you dunces, I find I must begin all over again. But don't I hear a coach drive up into the yard? To your post, you blockheads! I'll go in the meantime and give our friends a hearty reception at the gate.
By the heavens, my place is quite gone out of my head.
I know my place is to be everywhere.
Well, the dump is mine. My place is to be nowhere at all. So I just go about my business.
Welcome, gentlemen, very welcome. This way.
After the disappointments of the day, welcome once more, Charles, to the comforts of a clean room and a good fire. Upon my word, a very well-looking house.
The usual fate of a large mansion. After first having ruined its master by good housekeeping, it now levies contributions as an inn.
Yes, as you say, we passengers are to be taxed for these fineries. Although I have often seen a good sideboard or a marble chimney piece not put into the bill, inflame a reckoning confoundedly.
Travelers, George, must pay in all places. The only difference is that in fine inns, they pay daily for the luxuries, while in poor inns, they're fleeced and starved.
Yes, you have lived pretty much among them. In truth, I have often been surprised that by your many opportunities and your natural good sense, you have not yet acquired a requisite share of assurance.
The Englishman's malady. But tell me, George, where could I have learned this assurance you speak of? My life has been spent in seclusion, in an inn or a college, away from that part of life that chiefly teach men this confidence. I don't think I ever have been acquainted with a single modest woman, except my mother. But among women of another class, you know.
Yes, I know. You're impudent enough upon all
Are
conscience.
of us.
Yes, but in the company of women of reputation, I have never seen such an idiot, such a trembler. You look for all the world as if you wanted a way of stealing your way out of the room.
George, that's because I do want to steal my way out of the room. Faith, I have often formed a resolution to break the ice or to rattle away at any rate, but I don't know. A single glance from a pair of fine eyes and my entire resolution is overset. An impudent man may counterfeit modesty, but I'll be hanged if a modest man can ever counterfeit impudence.
If you could say but half the fine things I've heard you lavish upon the barmaid of an inn, or even a college bedmaker.
George, I can't say fine things of them. They freeze, they petrify me. They may speak of a burning mountain, or a comet, or some other such bagatelle. But a modest woman dressed out in all her finery is the most of all creation.
At this rate, man, how do you ever expect on marrying?
Never, unless among kings and princes my bride would be courted by proxy. If like an eastern bridegroom, I would never meet her before we were engaged. And then perhaps it could be endured. but to go through the long, drawn-out process of formal courtship, paired with the aunts and the grandmothers, and then to finally blurt out the blaring words, "Madam, will you marry me?" No, that's a task far above me, I assure you.
I pity you. But how do you ever intend on behaving to the lady if you come down upon your father's request?
Same as I act to all the ladies, I shall bow very low. Answer yes or no to all the commands. But as for looking in their face, I don't think I shall venture to until I see my fathers again.
How can you be such warm a friend, but such cool a lover?
To be explicit, my dear Hastings, my chief inducement down is to forward your happiness, not my own. Miss Neville loves you. The family don't know you. And as my guest, you're sure of a welcome. Let honor do the rest.
My dear Marlowe, but I'll suppress the emotion. For if I were a wretch merely seeking to carry off a fortune, you would be the last man in the world I would apply to for assistance. But Miss Neville's persons is all I desire, and that is both mine, by her dead father's consent and her own inclination.
Happy man, you have talent and art to captivate any woman. But this stammer in my address, this awkward preposition, and this visage of mine will never let me go above that of a milliner's apprentice or the Duchess of Drury Lane. This man here to interrupt us.
Gentlemen, once more you are heartily welcome. Which is Mr. Marlowe? Sir, you are heartily welcome. It's not my way, you see, to receive my friends with the back to the fire. I like to give them a hearty reception in the old style at the gate. I like to see their horses and trunks taken care of.
It's a name from the servants already. Sir, we approve of your caution and hospitality. I was thinking, George, of changing our dress gowns in the morning. I'm grown confoundedly ashamed of mine.
I beg, Mr. Marlowe, you'll use no ceremony in this house.
I beg you're right, Charles. The first blow is half the battle. I intend on opening the campaign with the white and gold.
Mr. Marlowe, Mr. Hastings, gentlemen, pray be under no restraint in this house. This is Liberty Hall, gentlemen. You may do just as you please here.
Although if we start with too early, we may want to reserve ammunition. I say we save their embroidery for a safe retreat.
You're talking of retreat, Mr. Marlowe. Puts me in mind of the Duke of Marlborough when he went to besiege the Denane. He first summoned the garrison.
Do you think the Ventio waistcoat will do fine in the
He
plain
first
brown?
summoned the garrison, which might consist of about 5,000
I think not. Brown and yellow mix but very poorly.
I say, gentlemen, as I was telling you, he first summoned the garrison, which might consist of about 5,000 men.
The girls like finery.
Yes. Which might consist of about 5,000 men, well equipped with stores, ammunition, and other implements of war. Now, says the Duke of Marlborough to George Brooks that was standing next to him. You must have heard of George Brooks, yes. I'll pawn my dukedom, says he, and I'll take that garrison without spilling a drop of blood.
A glass of warm punch, sir. It will help us carry on our siege with much more vigor.
Punch, sir. This is the most unaccountable kind of modesty I've ever dealt with.
Yes, sir. Punch, sir. A glass of warm punch after a long journey will be quite comfortable.
Here's a cup, sir.
So this man in his Liberty Hall will let us drink only what he pleases?
I hope you find it to your mind. I've prepared it with my own hands, and I believe your own ingredients are tolerable. Would you be so good as to pledge me, sir? Here, Mr. Marlowe, here is to our better acquaintance.
A very impudent fellow this is, but he's a character, so I shall endure him. Sir, my service to you.
I see he wants us to be his friends and forgets that he is an innkeeper before he has learned to be a gentleman.
Yes, so I suppose we have a lot of warm work down here now and then, during elections, I suppose.
Oh, no, sir. I've long given that work over. Since our betters have hit upon the expedient of electing themselves, I find there's no more business for us that sell ale.
Yes, so you have no turn for politics, I find.
Not in the least. There was a time, indeed, where I fretted about the mistakes of the government, but finding every day that the governments grew worse and I know better, I left it to it itself. I no more trouble myself about Hyder Ali or Ali Khan as you, Ali Coker. Sir, my service to you.
So, with eating above the stairs and drinking below, with bringing your friends within and your enemies without, you lead a good, pleasant, bustling life of it.
Well, I do stir about a great deal, that's for certain. Half the differences of the parish are adjusted in this very parlor.
Sir, you have an argument in your cup better than any in Westminster Hall.
Aye, young gentleman, that and a little philosophy.
Oh, this is the first time I've ever heard of an innkeeper's philosophy.
So, like an experienced general, You attack your enemies on every quarter, and if you find their reason is manageable, you attack them with your philosophy. And if you find they have no reason at all, you attack them with this. Is your health, my good philosopher?
Your generalship puts me in mind of Prince Eugene when he fought to the Battle of Belgrade. But you
Instead of the Battle of Belgrade, supper. What's your philosophy got in mind for supper this evening?
For supper, sir? But was ever such a request to a man in his own house?
Yes, supper, sir. I begin to feel a great appetite, and I shall work like a devil in the larder, I assure you.
Such a brazen dog, sure, never my eyes beheld. As for supper, sir, I can't well tell. My Dorothy and the cookmaid usually settle these things between them. I leave these things entirely to them.
Oh, you do you?
Entirely. And by the by, I believe they're in consultation upon what's for supper this very moment in the kitchen.
Oh, then I beg you to admit me as one of their privy council. I like to look after these things myself. It's a way I have about me.
Oh, no, sir, no offense taken. But our Dorothy is not very communicative upon these occasions. Should we send for her, she might scold us all out of the house.
But let me see the bill of fare as a favor. I always match my appetite to the bill of fare.
Sir, he's very right. It's my way, too.
Sir, you have a right to command.
Yes.
Here, Roger, bring us the bill of fare for tonight's supper. I believe it's drawn out. Your man, Mr. Hastings, puts me in mind of my Colonel Wallop. It was a saying of his that no man shall be sure of his supper till he had eaten it.
On the high road. His uncle a colonel. We shall soon hear his mother being a justice of the peace.
Indeed.
But let's hear the bill of fare first.
Oh, no. What have we here? For the first course, for the second course, and for the dessert. Zounds, man, do you think we brought down the entire Joiner Company or the Corporation of Bedford for such a meal? One or two things, clean and comfortable, will do.
But let's see the bill of fare first.
At the top, a pig in pruin sauce.
Ah, damn your pig, I say.
And damn your pruin sauce, say I.
And yet, gentlemen, to men that are hungry, pig with prawn sauce is very good eating.
Yes, I suppose. And at the bottom, a calf's tongue and brains.
Let your brains be knocked out, my good sir. I don't like them in the least.
Well, you may clap them on a plate by themselves. I do.
Their impudence confounds me. Gentlemen, you are my guests. Make any alterations you please. Is there anything else you'd like to retrench or alter?
Item, a pork pie, a boiled rabbit, sausages of Florentine, a shaking pudding, and a plate of taffety cream.
Oh, confound your main dishes. I could be as well off as at a green and yellow dinner at the French ambassador's table. I'm for plain eating.
I'm sorry, sir, that I have nothing you like. But if there's anything you'll take a particular fancy to...
Oh, no, sir, your menu is so, exquisite that any one thing is as good as the next. So much for dinner. And now to see that our beds are aired out and properly taken care of.
All entreat, sir. You leave that entirely to me.
Leave that to you? No. It's a way I have. I also look after these things myself.
I must insist, sir. You'll make yourself easy on that.
You'll see I'm resolved on it. Very wondersome fellow.
Well, I'm resolved at least to attend to you. This may be modern modesty, but I never saw anything look so like old-fashioned impudence.
So, I see these fellows' civilities begin to grow troublesome. But who can be angry at this fellow's assiduities which are meant to please him? Ah, my dearest Constance! By all that's happy!
My dear Hastings, to what unexpected good fortune, to what accident am I to owe this happy meeting?
Or should I ask you the same thing? For I could never have hoped of meeting my dearest Constance at an inn.
An inn? Sure you mistake. My aunt, my guardian, lives here. What conduced you to think this house an inn?
My friend, Mr. Marlowe, with whom I came down. We were sent here as to an inn, I assure you. This fellow we met accidentally at a house hard by directed us hither.
Certainly, it must be one of my hopeful cousin's tricks, of whom I've told you so often.
He for whom your aunt intends for you? He of whom I have such just apprehensions?
You have nothing to fear of him, I assure you. You'd adore him if you knew how heartily he despises me. My aunt knows it too, but has undertaken to court me for him, and actually begins to think she's made a conquest.
Now, dear dissembler, you must know, my dearest Neville, that I have come down upon this happy meeting to gain acceptance into the family. Our horses are now fatigued, but shall soon be refreshed, and then, if you trust in your faithful Hastings, we shall be landed in France, where there, even among the slaves, the laws of marriages are respected.
I have often told you that though ready to obey you, I should yet leave my little fortune behind with reluctance. The greatest part of it was left to me by my uncle, the India director, and chiefly consists of jewels. I have been for some time persuading my aunt to let me wear them, and fancy I am very near succeeding. The instant they are put into my possession, you shall find me ready to make them and myself yours.
Perish the baubles! Your person is all I desire. But we must not let Marlowe into his mistake, for I know the strange reserve of his temper, and if let into it suddenly, he will leave before our plan is ripe for execution.
How should we keep him in deception? Miss Hardcastle's just returned from walking. What if we continue to deceive him? This way.
The assiduities of these good people tease me beyond bearing. My host think it ill manners to leave me alone, so he not only claps himself, but his wife upon my back. And now they speak of going to sup with us too. Am I to go through the whole rest of the family? Or what have we here?
My dear Marlowe, you cannot guess what has happened. Such a lucky thing has just alighted. Can you guess who is here?
Cannot guess.
Our mistress's boy, Miss Hardcastle and Miss Neville. Give me leave to introduce you to Miss Constance Neville. They were just happening to dine in the area and came upon some fresh horses here, so Miss Neville, Miss Hardcastle, has just stepped into the next room and shall be back shortly.
Oh yes, that's very fortunate. Oh, but our dresses, George, they're in despair. If we were to put this off till tomorrow, it would be more convenient and much more respectful, so tomorrow let it be.
By no means, sir. Your ceremony will displease her.
No.
The disorder of your dress will show the ardor of your impatience.
Yes.
Besides, she knows you're in the house and will permit you to see her.
I've just been embarrassed. Oh, confound me. How shall I support it?
Shaman, it's but the first plunge and all's over. She's only a woman, you know.
And of all women, she that I dread the most.
Oh, Miss Hardcastle, Mr. Marlowe.
Oh, dear.
Now to meet my modest gentleman and quite in his own manner.
It gives me such delight in bringing two people who only want to know each other, to esteem each other.
I'm glad for your safe arrival, sir, and hear that you had some accidents by the way.
Yes, madam. A great many accidents, or rather not too many. We should be disappointed, or rather happy, or for any accidents that could have ended so agreeably.
Never well spoken in all your life. Keep it up, and I'll assure you the victory.
I'm afraid you flatter, sir. You that have seen so much of the finest company can find little entertainment in an obscure corner of the country.
Though I have lived, I have been mostly in seclusion. I have watched other people having fun while I've just been observing. What?
But that, I am told, is the way to enjoy it at last.
Bravo, bravo. Never spoken so well in your entire life. Once more, and you'll be assured for victory for all your life.
An observer like you were, I fear, disagreeably employed, as you must have had so much more to censure than to approve.
Pardon me, madam. I was always willing to be, entertained, but, the mirth of us is really more a lack of folly than uneasy. What is it?
Cicero never spoke better in his entire life.
Yes, he did.
Yes, yes. So I see that you two will get along just fine. Miss Hardcastle, Mr. Marlowe, our being here will but embarrass the interview.
No. On the contrary, George, we like your company here. Zounds, man, how can you leave me? I should be confoundedly ashamed. Don't go.
Oh, come on. You two will get along just fine, so we'll retire to the next room. Sounds nice. Don't you think we can manage a little tete-a-tete of our own?
I don't care. Oh. God. Oh.
The ladies, I should hope, have employed some part of your dresses.
Pardon me, madam. I as of yet have only studied, to deserve them.
And that, some say, is the worst way to obtain them.
Perhaps so, madam, but I only enjoy to speak with the more grave and, sensible part of the sex. But I'm sure I go tiresome.
Oh, sir, there is nothing I like so much as grave conversation myself. I could hear it forever. In fact, I've often been surprised at how a man of sentiment could ever admire those light, airy frivolities when nothing reaches the heart.
It's a disease of the mind, madam. Those who wanting a relish for oh my.
I understand you, sir. There are some who, wanting a relish for refined pleasures, pretend to despise what they are incapable of tasting.
My meaning, madam, yet infinitely better expressed. I was observing.
Who could ever suppose this fellow impudent upon some occasions? You were observing, sir.
I was observing, madam. How's it now? I protest, madam, I forgot what I was going to observe.
I vow, and so do I. You are observing, sir, that in this age of hypocrisy, something about hypocrisy, sir.
Yes, hypocrisy! In this age of hypocrisy, there are some who, upon strict inquiries, do not. I'm grow tiresome again.
No, sir! There are some who do not condemn in public, but they practice in private and pay every debt to virtue when they praise it. Pray go on.
Yes, madam, those who often have the most virtue in their mouths have the least in their bosom. Oh, my.
I understand you perfectly, sir.
God, that's more than I do myself.
You mean that in this age of hypocrisy, there are some who practice in public and condemn in private and think that they pay every debt to virtue. I agree with you entirely, sir.
Yes, there are some occasions when it puts us upon in the total want of courage and
I understand you, sir. There are times when a want of courage gives us the appearance of ignorance when we most want to excel. Pray go on.
Oh, yes. Oh, but Miss Neville beckons us. I would not beg to intrude for the world.
Oh, not at all, sir. I was never more agreeably entertained in all my life. Oh, wait, pray go on.
As was I, madam, but she beckons. Oh, yes. I do myself the honor to attend to.
Well, then I'll follow.
Pretty smooth dialogue has done for me.
Oh, was there ever a more sober, sentimental interview? He never looked at my face the whole time. But this fellow, but for his unaccountable bashfulness, is pretty well, too. Oh, but then so buried in his fears that it fatigues one more than ignorance. If I could just teach him a little courage, it would be doing someone that I know a little bit of service. But who is that someone? That, Faith, is a question I can scarce answer.
Why do you follow me so, Cousin Khan? I want to get another shame to be so very engaging.
I hope, cousin, when we speak to one's own relation and not to be to blame.
Aye, but I know what sort of relation you would make me, but it won't do, Cousin Khan. I tell you it won't do. So I bid you keep your distance. I want no near relationship.
Mr. Hastings, you're very entertaining. There's nothing in the world I love to talk of so much as London and the fashions, though I was never there myself.
Never there? By your air and manner, I assumed you were bred all your life at either Ranelagh, St. James, or Tower Wood.
Oh, sir, you're only pleased to say so. We country persons can have no manner at all. I'm in love with the town, and that serves to raise me above some of our neighboring rustics. But who can have a manor that has never seen the Pantheon, the Perot, the Grotto Gardens, and such places where nobility chiefly resort? All I can do is enjoy London at second hand. I take care to know every tete-a-tete from the Scandalous magazine, and have all the fashions as they come out in a letter from the two Miss Ricketts of Crooked Lane. Pray, how do you like this head, Mr. Hastings?
Very elegant and dégagé, upon my word. You're for sure a Frenchman, I suppose.
I protest. I dressed it myself from a print in the ladies' memorandum book for the last year.
Such a head in a side box would draw as many gazers as my lady mayoress at a city ball.
I vow since inoculation began, there is no such thing as to be seen as a plain woman. So one must dress a little particular, or one may escape in the crowd.
Yes, but that could never be your case in any dress, madame.
But what signifies my dressing with such a piece of antiquity at my side as Mr. Hardcastle? All I can say will never argue down a single button from his clothes. I have often wanted to throw off his great flaxen wig, and where he was bald, to plaster it over like my Lord Paisley with powder.
Yes, you are right, madame, for as among the ladies there are none ugly, so as among the men there are none old.
But what do you think his answer was? Why, with his usual Gothic vivacity, he said I merely wanted to throw it off to convert it into a tit for my own wearing.
Oh, intolerable! At your age, you must be able to wear whatever you want, and it must suit you.
Pray, Mr. Hastings, what do you take to be the most fashionable age about town?
Well, some time ago, 40 was all the mode. But I've heard the ladies, they are intending on bringing up 50 for the ensuing winter.
Seriously? Then I shall be too young for the fashion.
Else, no woman below 40 puts on any jewelry. So, Miss there, considered in a polite circle, would be just a maker, a sampler of jewels.
And yet Mrs. Niece thinks herself as much a woman and is as fond of jewels as the oldest of us all.
Your niece, is she? And that your brother, I presume.
Oh, my son, sir. They're contracted to each other. Observe their little sports. They fall in and out 10 times a day as if they were man and wife already. Well, Tony, my child, what soft things are you saying to your cousin Constance this evening?
I have been saying no soft things.
Except that it's very hard to be followed about, so God, I've not a place left to myself in the house but the stable.
Oh, never mind him, Con, my dear. He's in another story behind your back.
My cousin has a generous manner. He falls out before faces to be forgiven in private.
The damn confounded
Oh,
brat.
he's a sly one. Don't you think they're like each other about the mouth, Mr. Hastings? The Blankenship mouth to a T. They're of a size, too. Back to back, my pretties, that Mr. Hastings may see you. Come, Tony.
Could not make me, I tell you.
Oh, Lord, he's nearly cracked my head.
Oh, the monster. For shame, Tony. You are man and behave so.
If I'm a man, then let me have my Thornton. God, I'll not be made a fool of no longer.
Oh, is this ungrateful boy all that I'm to get for the pains I have taken in your education? I that rocked you in your cradle and fed that pretty mouth with a spoon. Did not I work your waistcoat to make you genteel? Did not I prescribe for you every day and weep while the receipt was operating?
God, you had reason to weep. You have been dosing me ever since I was born. I've been every receipt in the complete housewife 10 times over, and you have thoughts of coursing me through Quincy next spring. I tell you, I'll not be made a fool of no longer ago.
Wasn't it all for your good, Viper? Wasn't it all for your good?
I wish you'd let me and my good alone then, instead of snubbing this way, and when I'm in spirits.
Oh, that's false. I never see you when you're in spirits. No, Tony, you then go to the alehouse or kennel. I'm never to be delighted with your wild, agreeable notes, unfeeling monster.
God, Mama, your notes are the wildest of the two.
Whatever the like. But I see he wants to break my heart. I see he does.
My dear madame, permit me to speak to the young gentleman, and perhaps I can persuade him to his duty.
Well, I must retire. Come, Constance, my love. You see, Mr. Hastings, the wretchedness of my situation. Was ever poor woman so plagued with such a dear, sweet, pretty, provoking, undutiful boy?
There was a young man riding by, and fain would have his way. Rang-do-diddle-o-dee. Don't mind her, let her cry to the comfort of her heart. I've seen her and sister cry over a book for an hour once, and they say they liked the book the better, the more it made them cry.
So you're no friend to the ladies, I find.
Aye, that's as I find them.
Not that of your mother's choosing, I dare answer. And yet to me she appears to be calm and quiet.
Aye, aye. That's because you don't know her. Thank God, I know every inch about her, and there's not a more bitter, cantankerous toad in all Christendom.
Happy news for a lover.
I have known her since the height of that. She has as many tricks as a hare in a thicket,
Or a colt the first day's breaking?
To me, she appears to be calm and quiet.
Aye, before company. But when she's with her playmate, she's as loud as a hog in a gate.
She has a meek modesty that appeals to me.
Aye, yes, but curb her never so little. She kicks up and you're flung in the ditch.
Well, she must be allowed some beauty. Yes, she must be allowed some beauty.
Oh, bandbox, man, she's all a made-up thing. Ah, did you but see the bet bouncer of these parts? You might then talk of beauty. She has 2 eyes like lumps of coal, and cheeks broad and red as a pulpit cushion. Ah, she'd make 2 of she.
Well, what would you say to a man who would take this bitter bargain off your hands?
Anon?
What would you say to a man who would take this woman away from you so you can never hear from her again?
Aye, but where's there such a friend who would take her?
I am he! As long as you help me, I'll whisk her off to France where you'll never hear from her again.
Help you? God, I will to the last drop of my blood. I shall clap a pair of horses to your chase that'll trundle you off in a twinkling, and maybe get you a pair of her fortune besides in jewels you little dream of.
This looks like a lad of spirit.
Then come along and you shall see more of my spirit before you're done with me.
We are the boys who fear no noise, where the thundering cannons roar.
What could my old friend Sir Charles mean by recommending his son as the modest young man in town? To me, he appears the most impudent piece of brass that ever spoke with a tongue. He has taken possession by the chair by the fireside already. He took his boots off in the parlor and desired me to see them taken care of. I'm desirous to know how his impudence affects my daughter. She will certainly be shocked at it. Well, Kate, I see you have changed your dress as I bid you, and yet I believe there is no great occasion.
Oh, I take such great pleasure in obeying your commands that I do it without debating their proprieties, sir.
Aye, Kate, but sometimes I give you some cause, particularly when I recommend to you my modest young gentleman as a lover today.
Well, you told me to expect something extraordinary, and I find the original exceeds the description.
I've never been so surprised in my life. He has quite confounded all my faculties.
Surprising, and a man of the world, too.
Aye, he learned it all abroad. But what a fool was I to think a young man could learn modesty by traveling. He might as soon learn wit at a masquerade.
It all seemed natural to him.
A good deal assisted by bad company and a French dancing master.
Well, sure, you mistake, Papa. He never could have learned that modest address, that timid stance from a French dancing master.
Whose look? Whose manner, child?
Mr. Marlowe's. His mauvais sens, his timidity struck me at first glance.
Then your first sight deceived you, for I find him one of the most brazen first sights that ever astonished my senses.
Sure, sir, that you rally. I've never seen anyone so modest.
And can you be serious? I never saw such a bouncing, swaggering puppy since I was born. Bully Dawson was but a fool to him.
He treated me with diffidence and respect, censured the manners of the age, admired the prudence of girls who never laughed, and left the room with a bow and a "Madam, I would not for the world detain you."
He met me with a loud voice, a lordly air, and a familiarity that made my blood freeze again.
Oh, well, he was so modest with me, though, Father. I don't know.
He spoke to me as if he had known me all his life before, asked 20 questions and never waited for an answer, interrupted my best remarks with some silly pun, and when I was in my best story of the Duke of Marlborough and Prince Eugene, he asked me if I had a hand at making punch. Yes, Kate, he asked your father if he was a maker of punch.
One of us must certainly be mistaken.
If he be what he has shown himself, then I am determined he shall never have my consent.
Or if he be the selling thing I take him, he shall never have mine.
In one thing, then, we are agreed, to reject him.
Yes, but upon conditions. For if you should find him more respectful, and I more presuming, if you should find him more modest, and I more mischievous, I don't know. The fellow is well enough for a man. Certainly we don't get many of those in a horse race in the country.
If we should find him so, but that's impossible. The first sight has done my business. I'm seldom deceived in that.
But there may be many good virtues under that first appearance.
Aye, when a girl finds a fellow's outside to her liking, she then sets about guessing all the rest of his furniture. With her, a smooth face stands for sense, and a genteel figure for every virtue.
I hope, sir, that a conversation begun with a compliment to my good sense won't end with a sneer to my understanding.
Pardon me, Kate, but if young Mr. Brazen can find the art of reconciling contradictions, he may please us both, perhaps.
And as one of us must certainly be wrong, let's go about trying to find out what he's really like.
Agreed, but depend on it, I'm in the right.
And depend on it, I'm not much in the wrong.
God, I've got them. My cousin Khan's necklaces, bobs and all. My mother shan't cheat those poor souls out of their fortune either.